A nurse is assaulted in a convalescent home, but no one believes her because she says the perpetrator was a ghost.
The agents investigate the home to find that the residents are surprisingly lucid and mobile. Just what is going on here?
This is not him.
This is Michelle Charters. She's a registered nurse at a convalescent home in Worcester, Massachusetts.
What happened to her?
According to Miss Charters, she was raped. The abrasions and contusions here would be consistent with her claims, as would be the medical report, which cites the kind of injury and tearing associated with sexual trauma.
Where'd you get this? Violent crimes?
No, the woman made the video herself. It seems that no one will believe her story.
Why not?
Because she claims to have been raped by an invisible entity, a spirit being.
I have several X-files that document similar cases.
I know, I've been here since 6 this morning going through them.
Well, then you know none of them have ever been substantiated.
Not surprisingly.
Well, given the emotional and psychological violence of rape, the face or identity of the attacker is often blurred or erased from memory. That he could be perceived as invisible is a logical leap from there.
Yes, but this case is different.
Why?
The victim has filed a lawsuit against the federal government. She seems to be certain who the spirit being is.
Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Mike, and with me, as always, is Andrew. How are you doing, Andrew?
Well, today is a good day to watch and review Excelsis Dei.
It is a good day.
Although it's kind of more nighttime, so
It's closer to evening, sir.
Yes, closing in on evening time, but
Excelsis evening.
Excelsis evening. I like it. Maybe it makes it a better episode just by doing that.
Uh-oh.
Whoa.
Coming in hot.
Shots fired.
We are covering, ladies and gentlemen, Excelsis Dei, written by Paul Brown. I believe this is his second and final writing credit.
Yeah, he wrote Ascension prior to this one, which was arguably a much better episode.
Arguably, although not objectively, sir.
Well, we said that. But what was the result of that arc?
I would say that was my least favorite.
Yeah, you liked One Breath. I liked
One Breath than Dwayne Barry, but it was like a toss up for those two. But
yeah.
But that being said, I do like Ascension. So
I like it too. So Paul Brown can do some good stuff, but
yeah. Directed by Steven Suryk, his only credit on the X-Files. So it was a different name for the first time, for the last time, as they say in Spaceballs.
Apparently he reached out to the show because he was a fan. And I guess he's kind of a name in the world of film and TV directing. He's done lots of film segments for one of my favorite shows, The Kids in the Hall. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I have.
They did Wayne's World 2, 5 episodes of Road to Avonlea. So he's no small potatoes.
Nice. Yeah. I think he did a competent job with this episode, aside from glaring issues. Well, but that's not his fault, necessarily.
The question will be, are those issues the result of the script or the direction of the script?
Correct.
And I think that there are some glaring flaws with the story they tried to craft here, of which obviously we will expose to the light of day.
Yeah, so let's dive into this one.
The light of Excelsis Dei.
Ooh.
I had.
Yeah, it's to be expected.
Yeah.
So we open on the convalescent home in Massachusetts, Excelsis Dei. Ooh. Inside, the night shift is watching a boxing match, not doing their job. A woman, Michelle, a nurse, enters the room as the two men begin mock fighting and goofing around. They seem pretty immature and lacking sympathy as they joke about a woman who died earlier that day. Michelle asks if either of them bothered to change her room, and in dismissive fashion, they say no, they left it for her. Michelle heads out to a room with two elderly men in bed watching the fight as well. As she prepares them for rest, she has an exchange with one, Hal, who is very handsy, let's say. She's frustrated as she straps him down for the night. Out in the hall, she passes Gung, an orderly, and schools him for allowing them to watch TV after 9 p.m. He says they're doing better, but she says, yeah, that's because they're not grabbing your butt all night. She begins changing out Mrs. Richardson, her room. the woman who died earlier that day. It's simply an empty room with a bed. Suddenly, the door slams shut. The bed begins to shake and slides itself across the floor in front of the door. The camera pulls in under Michelle's face, implying intense danger. She can't seem to move the bed and is then thrown down on her back by an unseen force. Attempting to escape, she begins to struggle even more, trying to move the bed once again, but is tossed onto her back on the bed, and this time the straps grab her wrists and lock her down. She screams wildly for help. The camera cuts to a dark and empty hallway. No one is coming. Credits. How'd you feel about this opener, Andrew?
I think that living in that institution would be a special kind of hell. What
Indeed.
kind of a place is this? Because whoever Paul Brown is, he must have had some negative experiences with convalescent homes, because he's got a point to make, and he makes it like a dozen times in this episode.
Yeah.
But
yeah, this place is populated with terrible people for the most part.
Well, and apparently the residents, I mean, straps on the bed? Like, what was it like in 93? Was this like standard operating procedure? You never know.
If you're elderly and you can't be cared for at home, you must be restrained at night.
Yeah. And a lights out policy, and you can't watch TV. I mean, I just feel like if I got to be that age and you were telling me that no, it's lights out and you can't watch TV when you want, it's like, pardon me, I served in WW2, young lady. I'll do whatever the heck I want.
I have had a few family members in elderly homes throughout the years, and as far as I am to understand, it's pretty much do whatever you want in your room, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's any super restrictions. This must be a very different organization, or they're just awful people.
Let's just say the rooms are super cheap.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's
just
economy.
4 walls.
Yeah.
4 concrete walls.
4 concrete walls, and they do whatever they want to you, basically.
Yeah.
Now, to Charter's credit, she does not freak out when the bed is flung against the door, and
that is true.
I love that touch of the opening. Is that this thing happens, and there's that moment where she's looking
processing it.
Yeah, like, did that just happen? Why did that just happen? What should I do about this thing? Mm-hmm. So it's a lovely touch that stood out for me. But then when she is assaulted and she is screaming and the camera pans through the institution, I just think, again, what the hell institution is that, where that is apparently acceptable? Nobody's going to come running to her help.
And they try to explain it away a little bit, even though it's not even a plot point. But as we'll find out in a little bit here, the director lady, she says they've lost funding and they don't have like a real staff. But I guess that's their only way to really explain why there's no one there coming to her aid, even though they can hear it cleanly throughout the whole hospital.
Yes.
I don't know.
It's, let's just say objectively, the episode hasn't lost me yet. It is legitimately interesting and terrifying as we enter that sequence. And we'll wait for later for it to fall apart. But for right now, it's fine.
For right now, it's pretty steady, pretty sturdy.
Solid 6.
Michelle has filed a lawsuit against the government, and she is certain she knows who did it. In a quick cut, we see Michelle's bruised and cut face. Hal Arden, she says plainly. He's been here for years. Mulder is surprisingly dismissive from the get-go in this episode. He asks her how she knows it was him. He's made advances to me. She states, when you bathe someone for 5 years, you know more about them than you need to. An old man smells and feels a certain way. Scully wants to continue the investigation, but she needs evidence. And Michelle's a little put off by the same lines she's been hearing and has heard before. Without fluids or hair or anything, they can't really build a case. She insists that she did not make this up, and she isn't fragile enough to repress the attacker's face.
Well, sorry, it's just there's stuff I wanted to talk about before we jumped in there.
For sure.
I love how the through line of this episode is how the paranormal butts up against the legal. Like, how do you prosecute an invisible rapist? That is a question that the X-Files is uniquely positioned to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
But this is exactly the only place where it happens. It sort of never comes up again.
It's really hard to bring those two things together for sure. Yeah. You know, they touch on it for Tombs. You know, how do you, or no, excuse me, Host. They touch on how do you prosecute this thing that's killed two people, but it has no mental capacity for law and justice. So how do you really hold it accountable? But yeah, this is one of those episodes that actually attempts to bridge that gap.
A little bit. Like, I guess the bigger question is how Scully got this file. Like, it is never really addressed.
It's not.
I mean, my assumption is there's a lawsuit against the federal government. Mm-hmm. It sort of goes through channels to the FBI, and finally somebody says, you know, there are these people that investigate these weirdo claims.
Exactly. Yeah,
Let's pawn it off on them to look into this and see if there's any merit. But
yeah, you're exactly right. I think it's one of those things where it gets reported, and because it is against the federal government, it goes through those channels, and they're like, okay, well, she's saying she was raped, but she's saying she was raped by a ghost. So let's kick it over to the X-Files.
Yeah.
But yeah. In the shower room, Hal is getting out of the tub as the agents question him.
You gotta be kidding me. What do I think about her claims? I should be in the Guinness record book. Hey, I'm 74 years old. I've got plumbing older than this building. And it don't work much better either.
Thank you for sharing. Are you aware that you're being named in a lawsuit against the federal government?
I am.
Did you ever threaten Miss Charters?
What?
Did you ever threaten Miss Charters?
Threaten? It was harmless, for crying out loud. Ever since this sex harassment fad, men can't say what's on their minds.
She says you made advances. Advances?
If I told you you were a very pretty woman and I would like to show you some affection, would you be offended? Huh?
Ever since the sexual harassment fad of the 90s.
Yeah, it's going to pass.
It's going to pass. Yeah,
it's going to go back to the way it used to be.
Men can't say what's on their minds. An interesting, if not somewhat believable point for this dude. A man of his age, I could see saying something like this.
Yeah, totally in character.
The conversation ends with Hal wishing for death and heaven, if heaven is full of sex, essentially. He says, it wasn't me, but if that's what it is, sign me up. So,
yeah, nice.
He leaves the agents to ponder a little bit. Mulder is convinced this whole thing is a waste of time. Scully is not dissuaded from the fact that a real crime has occurred. As they leave, we can see an orderly talking down to Hal's friend Stan, who does look worried at the presence of the agents. Outside, Mulder and Scully talk to the director, Miss Dawson, a middle-aged woman who is dressed very nicely. As they walk through the fall trees, she explains that 10 years ago, Excelsis was the leading facility for the elderly, something I really don't buy.
10 years ago, there was more money, apparently. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, then funding was cut, and they were all but shut down. Dr. Grego visits about 3 times a week, but other than that, the medical staff is not on site. She claims they hold themselves to a high standard of treatment, and they specialize in later life degenerative diseases. Mulder points out Hal, who is said to have Alzheimer's, seemed very spry and alert, and she tells them to speak to Dr. Grego about it. How do you feel her perception of this facility? How accurate is this?
I don't think
it's accurate at all.
Devotes half of her time to her bridge club and the other half to running this facility, because she only gets paid half hours now. So she really does not. There are some marvelous moments where she speaks as if she knows anything at all about what's happening here, where truly she is checked out of what the real state of affairs is.
And she even has a line towards the end of the episode. What is going on here? Which is very apropos of who she is as a person and how involved she must be, because she has no clue what's going on in her facility at all.
Now, what did you think of Gung when we first met him? Because the plot clearly tries to paint him as suspicious. right from the get-go.
He is very suspicious from the get-go, but it's even in that interaction with Michelle, he seems a little more caring than anyone we've seen so far. Where Michelle has a reason to be curt and upset right now. You know, the first two orderlies that were watching the boxing match, they seem like assholes and they're not fit for this job. So
100%.
My first impression of Gung was that, okay, this guy, in the brief moment we see him in the hall, seems at least to care a little bit. He's letting them watch TV past the curfew or whatever. Okay.
Well, he deserves to be fired for that. Come on.
He definitely deserves
He does not know how the arm straps work.
How dare he?
Jeez. Hasn't he read the employee manual?
Letting them watch TV is bad enough, but not restraint? Are you kidding?
God.
What an asshole.
Lets them eat their own food, too. God.
Miss Dawson goes on to say they were all dismayed by the lawsuit, and when Scully asks if she believes Michelle and her story, she tells them she wants to show them something. Now, inside the home, Stan is peering out the window, watching the discussion from a distance, and asks his buddy Hal, "Did you tell them anything?" Hal is then berated by his friend. "You have to be more careful, you're going to ruin it for all of us." After insisting he's not going to die here, Stan goes to his nightstand and takes out a pill and swallows it. Hal demands one. You can't handle another one. It's an interesting scene, which implies something for sure is going on that just isn't normal. The two men bicker back and forth like an old married couple about this unknown thing. I will say for me personally, this scene is a little pedestrian. It just feels contrived, and
yeah,
I don't like the execution of it. No offense to the actors, it's just a little too on the nose for me. Some of the things they're saying, it's like, oh, back and forth time. I don't know.
It could be how it was cut. I mean, I kind of like the chemistry between them. I don't know. It's hard to measure what they're trying to do with this scene because it feels like the drug clearly gives them some kind of power or awakens them in some way. But if I'm going to point at anything, I think that is one of the problems of the episode is we're not really clear on what this pill actually does for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Other than it makes them less Alzheimer-y. But whether that is the effect or that is the side effect, it's not clear because there's this whole thing with ghosts and invisible raping and all the rest. So
I have big problems with the whole thing and how it comes together. But
that is something we'll probably wrap on.
We will definitely.
For now, the introduction of the pill and whether you can handle it or not is also not really well explored because Stan just says, no, you can't handle another one. And it's like, well, what are the symptoms that sort of bring us to that? Like, you just have Stan's word for it.
Yeah, and I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to introduce a piece of the story and a piece of the plot. But it just, to me, it comes off as clunky and a little ham-fisted. Yeah. So it just doesn't sit well with me. But in Miss Dawson's office, she pulls out a file and hands it to the agents. Michelle has 3 separate claims for accidents received while on the job. Just in April, she requested leave with full pay due to emotional stress. Mulder asks if she saw the extent of her new injuries. She has. As he asks if she staged the attack, they are interrupted by an orderly.
Convenient.
Exactly. Yeah. Hal Arden is choking to death, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that is so friggin' convenient, and this will not be the first time, not be the last time this happens in this episode, that they're about to make some kind of...
And cut.
It's like, no. Not allowed
interruption.
To have that. We're going to be interrupted by an amazing event.
Yeah. So we go into Hal's room, the camera focuses on his neck, and we see the image squeeze with really bad effects, implying an unseen force choking him. Everyone rushes in to help. Scully begins issuing commands and tending to him as best she can. As she begins CPR, they notice Gung in the hall, watching with a distressed look about him.
Oh, he's so guilty.
He is so guilty. This man is being painted as the villain. Hal is being gurneyed away, wrapped in a sheet. He did not make it, ladies and gentlemen.
I think it's because Scully is a terrible doctor.
She's a terrible CPRist.
She's Dr. McCoy, basically, is what she is. Like, when the plot demands somebody can survive, she can be there. Actually, I don't know if I can count on one hand the number of times that she's actually
resuscitated
saved anybody. She's good for autopsies and declaring deaths, but beyond that, I don't think
She is a very good diagnostician. From across the room, this person's dead.
Yeah.
If you go all the way back to the church one.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking about that Miracle Man. Yeah.
Miracle Man, yeah.
Dead. Mm.
He's
I
dead.
want to be sitting next to that person.
Let me just sniff this glass of poison.
Let me taste it. Oh, yeah, poison.
Dr. Grego is now here. He's explaining the loss and that he's been treating Hal's Alzheimer's to Scully's disbelief. He's been using an experimental drug, Depronil. The patients here are doing quite well because of it. With a smile, Grego says before Hal started the drug, he could barely form a sentence. Dr. Grego regrets the moment of levity, but he does truly enjoy helping these people and prolonging their lives if he can. The ambulance pulls away to reveal a solemn Michelle on the other side.
Are they trying to imply that Michelle is responsible? With that
I don't know. It was a weird...
cutaway?
They exchange... Her and Mulder exchange glances. She looks a little upset. I don't know what they were trying to do or what that's all about. But yeah, I think there's something we're supposed to infer from this because it really doesn't come back at all.
Maybe it's her sort of saying, well, he got what he deserved. Or
kind of. My initial take was like she's suddenly racked with, she's sorry he had to die, but at the same time, he's an asshole because he rapped. Yeah, kind of that kind of thing where she doesn't know how to feel right now, which, again,
a weird moment.
Something else that's out of place.
And this is a director's choice, actually. So
yeah.
Sorry, Stephen. Not
sorry, great. Stephen. Okay, so inside, Gung questions Stan about yet another pill he's gulping down. What I give you is enough. Clue, Andrew, clue.
Yes.
It's our secret. Too much is very bad. No more for you. In the day room, the other residents are doing various things as an elderly woman wheels around the room talking to nobody. Scully asks for Hal's autopsy results. Mulder goes to sit next to Leo, another man from the group who is doing very well. He's drawing. The woman who is wheeling around the room exclaims he's a brilliant artist. Scully asks about the meds, and Leo cuts her off. It ain't the medication. The agents look stunned, and before they get an answer, one of the orderlies takes him away. There you go. Another
All
interruption.
Brown, you love your plot cutoffs.
Gotta love it.
Now, Mike.
Yes, sir.
If you're working in law enforcement in a medical capacity, who are you going to go to for the autopsy results? You're going to go to their family doctor?
The prescribing doctor.
Yeah. I thought that was a weird little...
I don't know if he's just like the direct line. He's the prescribing doctor, so he's going to have first dibs on the autopsy report.
First of all, why isn't Scully doing the autopsy?
That's another thing with this episode. What the fuck? They can't even do that right.
Some of your best episodes have Scully doing sweet, sweet autopsy. So
sweet, sweet autopsy.
Why are you denying your core demographic here?
Yeah. Yeah, this episode cannot stick the landing. It does not know these characters very well.
Yeah. Paul Brown, more autopsy, please.
Oh, boy. So, back at Mulder and Scully's hotel. Hotel Hartley, by the way. The agents discuss the implications of helping cure Alzheimer's, but Mulder cannot move fast enough to leave and begins checking out of the hotel. Scully posits the idea that maybe the meds are related to the rape. Too much acetylcholine can cause side effects, much like those of schizophrenia. Andrew, quick question.
Yes, I'm listening.
What's the last time we heard about acetylcholine?
I don't know, Mike. What was last time? Ice? Was it ice?
Yeah.
Oh, it was ice. Well, that was a whole season ago.
That was a whole season. I just thought it was fun.
Sure. Does it have any relevance to this episode whatsoever?
No. But she says it does cause side effects of those like schizophrenia. So,
and they don't bother.
They were acting a little crazy.
They don't say. Remember that time we were locked away in an ice cavern?
No, she didn't. That's a deleted scene.
Oh,
They cut that for time.
surely you remember the solution to that was to burn the place down?
Mulder takes this moment to joke and brush everything she has to say off. We can see Scully genuinely trying to solve the case, as it is obviously very important to her. Mulder tells her it's likely Michelle has concocted the whole story.
Yeah, Mike.
I'm not
Why
on
is she
board.
Why is she so motivated?
I'm not on board with Mulder in this episode.
Okay, I'll tell you why you're not. Because
I know why I'm not.
the traditional dynamic between Mulder and Scully is that he's the believer and she's the skeptic, and they do the flip so that
It's not even it.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I can get down with a flip if it's done well. He is not acting like Mulder. Mulder is above anything else. He is the defender and the ally to the outcasts of each episode. The people who are
woman too.
the vulnerable woman. Someone I would say he's almost more sympathetic to females because of his sister, because he gets, there's a lot of episodes where he's very, very driven to help.
Right.
And especially with something as serious as rape.
Yeah.
I get that it's not paranormal enough, but Mulder, the real Mulder, this is not the real Mulder. He would not brush it aside, you know? He would brush the paranormal aspect aside, as he does in other episodes, and help the person as best he can. Here, he's just trying to get away and go to Washington. just be done with it. And it's
Yeah, and they need to do this so that Scully can be more forthright, so that she can be the one to push for it to, so she has something to push against. I agree with your perspective, though, that it doesn't jive with what we know or think we know about Mulder and his personality.
Mm-hmm.
Because you write this a little bit differently, and he's the one saying, I don't know, I think there's more here. Mm-hmm. Because eventually he does say that. He's the one.
And we'll get into it. But yeah, it's just like the moment he decides to hop on board is like, oh, okay.
Oh,
now it's good enough for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just don't understand why she's so motivated. Like, I get that, she's...
I would say it's a female thing. There's a woman who's been assaulted, and it's important on that aspect.
But, I mean, she's pretty dispassionate as well. Like, as far as seeing through what happened here, I would see that she would be the person to say, in all likelihood, she staged her own attack. Mm-hmm. And... has the training and knowledge to know what that attack would look like. Yet she believes Charters pretty succinctly, even faced with the evidence that Charters has made previous claims to this effect. So
yeah,
I don't understand. They do a swap, and I'm not convinced of the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, agreed. Again, Mulder tells her it's likely Michelle concocted the story, and Scully lays out her injuries. It is very unlikely that she did them herself. So she talks Mulder into staying one more night. Back at the home, an orderly is feeding Dorothy.
Proving once again this place is a hellhole.
Yeah, he is shoving this food into her mouth, and she refuses to eat it. She spits it out. He gets frustrated and leaves, as you do when you're an orderly. Yeah.
He's only being paid, what is it, $5.50 an hour or something?
$5.50 an hour. I ain't got time for this.
Yeah.
Leo isn't eating either. He asks Gung for more pills for himself as well as Dorothy. Leo tells Dorothy not to worry as Gung leaves the room. Down the halls.
But Gung is the one saying to Leo, he's like, no, you can't. Too much is bad.
Yeah, too much is bad.
Why don't these people listen? Don't they? Didn't he just see what happened to his buddy Hal?
You'd think they were all given Viagra. Like, I need more of this shit. Give me what you got, Gung. I'm really, really enjoying this. But
I'm surprised Gung didn't say, your buddy Hal wanted more. Look what happened to him.
Look what happened to him.
And Leo will be like, oh, you're right. I'll just eat my grovel food now.
Down the hall, Stan is arguing with a young woman, his daughter.
Why are you being so stubborn?
I'm not. I happen to like it here.
A year ago, you were practically begging to come and live with us.
Well, things change.
Look, Dad, I am sorry about what happened to Mr. Arlen.
Arden. His name was Arden.
I'm just about finished packing your things, Mr. Phillips.
I'm going to make sure you didn't forget anything.
Don't you worry, Mrs. Kelly. You just pull your car up front. I'll make sure he gets down, okay?
Thank you.
He's gonna be just fine.
It's sad. My 2 little girls won't even visit their grandfather. They're too afraid to even come here.
It's hard for anyone to be here, including the residents.
That's why Jack and I decided that no matter what time he's got left, we wanted to spend it with us.
How many years has he been here?
Almost 3. But we didn't have any choice. Jack and I both work. The doctor said that he needed 24-hour nursing assistance.
He doesn't seem to need much assistance now. Has his improvement been that pronounced?
I thought I was bringing him here to die. They told me he'd only get worse. The physical deterioration, the dementia. And now it's like he's a different person.
Do you have any idea why?
I suppose it has something to do with Dr. Grego's treatment. Dad won't talk to me about it. He's just too angry. Oh, he was so angry when I brought him here in the first place, and now he's angry that I want to take him home. I don't know that he's ever going to forgive me.
Inside, the orderly closes his suitcase while telling Stan he's been a big pain in the butt. Stan takes off quickly down the hall and a chase ensues. He chases Stan up the stairwell to a high floor. There's a dark room with a large window. It's unlatched and open. He investigates the window and sees, outside, legs scampering behind another section of the roof. Now, Andrew.
Yes, Mike.
I got another problem.
I'm excited to hear it.
The entire episode so far,
Yeah.
these orderlies have been not doing their job.
Fair.
But this one is going to step out onto the roof to chase an old man.
I see where you're going. Please continue. Yeah.
I don't buy it. All it took was for Dorothy to spit out a little bit of food for the one guy to be like, fuck this, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to chase an elderly man who shouldn't be on the roof, granted.
Clearly.
Out onto the roof. We're gonna take our job to that level, risk death to save this man.
To be fair, he did say, "Don't think I'm coming out there to get you," and
But
sort of
he does
hovered on the threshold.
He is on the threshold. He's like one step out, but both feet are out. He's not like 1 foot out, yelling out the window. He is out of the window.
Yeah.
To the point where I think he would probably, if he was not knocked off his balance or whatever, he would have followed. That's just my perception.
I think he's not being paid enough to do that, and frankly, he's not being paid enough to just look the other way and watch Stan fall to his death and be like, well, what can I tell you?
Yeah, I just don't believe that he would even go out here. He was like, you know what?
I think he'd be smart enough to realize that he needs help here, at least just to cover his ass.
I would hope so, but yeah, it's just weird.
It was a strange take. I mean, it's all to get him into this crisis situation so that we can have the spooky thing, which happens next.
What happens next? Well, as he's calling to Stan, who is not in sight anymore, we see the camera from behind the orderly rush towards him from inside the room and knock him down the roof. He slides down and grabs onto the ledge. Holy shit, Andrew, he's going to die.
He's going to die.
Yep.
Can't pull himself up.
Yeah. Mulder catches sight of him and rushes inside to help if he can. Once he gets up to the room, of course he's quick enough to get up to the window, but not quick enough to save him. But it's funny here because the orderly's fingers are being pried off the ledge, kind of like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah. Which, to credit
one
to the
fingy
episode,
at a time.
It's legit scary. The idea that he's hanging on and is you know exactly what's happening. A ghost is peeling his fingers off one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But,
very much.
Yeah.
So Mulder reaches out to save him. The orderly struggles to grab his hand and falls to his death.
He misses, right? Like he lunges to grab Mulder's hand and misses.
They do grapple a little bit, but he ultimately loses grasp.
So he's just incapable.
And we know the orderly is now dead because there's blood on the outside of his ear.
Coming out of his ear. Yeah.
And if you look closely, it's actually not coming from inside the ear. It's just around the canal.
Yeah, it's
boy.
It's a curious death.
It's a curious death.
It won't be investigated.
Bloody ears mean death. So
how did he die? He fell. That's all we need to know.
He fell.
Yep.
To their credit, it does look like they used a stuntman from a significant height for that. So.
Oh, yeah. It was a long fall.
Yeah. Coming back from commercial, Grego arrives to find Mulder with Stan. Mulder is suggesting the orderly was pushed by Stan. Stan has been present for 2 deaths within 24 hours at this place.
Circumstantial evidence sent him to jail.
It is circumstantial.
Mm-hmm.
Mulder then clocks Gung listening in. He asks for the post-mortem. Outside the room, Michelle argues with Dawson about managing a whole floor by herself. The conversation ends without resolution, and we hear Dorothy shooing something away. Dawson hears her line. She has no idea what's going on.
I think it's worth noting that, okay, whatever you think about Nurse Charters, and I think that she's competently played, but the character they've written for her, literally an orderly has just fallen to his death.
And she's worried about workforce.
In the next scene, Charters is like,
I'm not doing his job. Don't even ask. I swear to God.
I am overworked here. I don't know where the staff has gone.
So when he flatlines, the moment he hits the ground, she feels the workload. That's all she feels. She's like,
yeah,
she
looks at it and goes, oh, fuck, that's a whole ward I got to take care of now.
She's just saying to herself, I know Dawson's going to come and make me do his work. I just know it.
Yeah. Well, and the episode certainly paints him as such an asshole that we look at his death as like, well, he kind of deserved it.
We don't care.
Yeah. We are either cheering for the ghosts or do not care that Dawson, not Dawson, that the name of this orderly escapes me, but that he is an ex-orderly.
Yeah. He's a dead orderly.
He's disorderly.
He's oh. He's got a disorder.
Yeah, he's got a disorder. Permanent disorder.
He's an out of orderly.
Ooh, that's even better. I like that one.
Ooh. Okay. So Dorothy is in the hall by herself talking to no one once again. You be nice. I don't want any more of your dirty tricks. Miss Dawson tries to get her into her room, and she attributes this moment to her dementia. We catch a glimpse of Scully from Dorothy's point of view, and there are apparitions of men surrounding Scully, as Dorothy is telling them not to get any ideas. Scully leaves in a hurry as the apparitions follow. Mulder is looking at the post-mortem report. Grego notes ibotenic acid, and that it should not be in his blood. It's a kind of poison.
Sounds made up to me.
Yeah. Scully then reviews the report. It's only a trace amount, but it does cause hallucinations, and she notes that Dorothy may be having one right now. Michelle then summons them all out, again, before any progress is made on the plot.
Before there's some kind of revelation or explanation.
Before there's a revelation at any point in this episode.
And I love that this is, she comes in and is like, you've got to come quickly. This is super important that you come right now. I cannot tell you about this. You have to come with me now.
This cannot wait.
There's a dead body out here. Oh, wait. No, actually, there's not a dead body.
They rush out to the day room, and Leo is painting an intricate mural on the entire wall. It looks beautiful. Mulder inquires about Gung at this moment and goes to look for him.
Why does he...
he's got some nagging questions he just needs answered right now.
Well, the worst part of that is he looks at the mural and then he goes,
I got to talk to Gung.
Yeah, I got to talk to Gung. But like, they don't really show us the mural. Although I know from the flash moment that we have at it, there's a little ghost in there, right? Like Leo is painted the fact that he can see ghosts. That is, I think, what is supposed to tip off Mulder. But you've got to tease that out on the rewatch to see that. I think in the moment you're just like, oh, you painted a neat mural. Well, this is something you needed to pull this out of an important meeting to see.
I'm with you on Mulder's choice to call for Gung in this moment, because it's like, what? I don't know that we are supposed... I think we are. You're correct. We're supposed to infer that from sight of this mural, he needs to talk to Gung. This leads back to an Asian man. apparently. I don't understand the correlation, but
I kind of
obviously
I wish we saw the art and saw like I don't know, Vietnamese soldiers with the rice patty hats or something. Be like, oh, Asia.
There's a dragon in a yin yang.
Yeah, some kind of really.
I need to talk to
really
Gung.
Tropey racist painting or something, but yeah, you cut this together differently. I think it would be it'd be very problematic.
Oh man, but yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we're supposed to infer something, and yeah, Mulder's been clocking Gung in suspicious ways the entire episode so far.
Sure, I'll buy that. And frankly, Gung's the only one left.
Yeah.
There's no one else left.
He's the only one he has not talked to.
Is it Dawson, maybe? Maybe Dawson's the one doing it. Grago's too nice, so it can't be him.
So down in the cellar, yes, I said cellar, Mulder looks around to find a door with a shiny padlock. He breaks it open with a conveniently placed nearby metal object. Inside is a damp room. He finds scores of growing mushrooms under low light and sprinklers. Among the white fungi, he notices a small white cloth beneath the dirt, and he pulls on it. As the dirt falls away, it reveals an arm and a hand. He begins wiping more dirt away to reveal another orderly's face. It's Upshaw, the man who didn't show up for work.
He's not just being derelicting of his duty. He killed it.
So is Gung planting orderlies?
Well, they excellent fuel for mushrooms.
Oh my God.
I have some questions
at
this point. So I'd like to go back to the death of Upshaw. We can invent some kind of reason. Maybe he too was raped and brutally assaulted till he died. We don't need to know how and why he died, but I would like to understand because I think what they're implying is a ghost has done this, right? Yeah, it's not Gung. Gung's too nice. We're not going to believe it was Gung that did it, even though he's the obvious suspect here. So what that meant was that after the death, assuming it wasn't here, because why would Upshaw come into Gung's locked from the outside with a padlock room?
Well, if he's anything like Jorge, he was beamed in here by aliens.
He was beamed into there by an alien ghost.
I don't know what to think. For some reason, my mind, and I'm probably way off base here, even for an episode that makes very little sense. I'm probably off base. But my interpretation was that he was killed by a ghost or a specter of some sort, and then Gung is hiding him or using him to grow the mushrooms. So I don't know.
When Gung says, seriously, I didn't kill him, that's true, but
I believe that.
Gung's not answering the question, did you hide the body? Oh, yes, I hid the body. It would be bad if he was discovered dead.
It would just cause more problems. I just didn't want anyone to worry.
In my country, he's better as mushroom food.
He is dirt, man.
Anyway, I just had an issue with the revelation here. And then further, why on earth is Mulder messing with that guy's face with his bare hand?
With his bare hand. Yeah,
did he go to crime school? Because there's evidence in a crime scene right here.
Oh, no. No. It's only evidence when you need it to be evidence, sir.
Fair enough. This
guy is misunderstood.
He's just a circumstance. But far and beyond, that cannot be hygienic.
Yeah. No. I can't imagine brushing a dead man's face over and over. But
stroking it tenderly.
It is kind of tender.
It is.
So Gung insists he did not kill him, but it is indeed his mushroom crop. It makes the patients feel better. They've been used in his country for centuries. He says his culture feels a duty to care for the elderly, but here you send them away to die. They are not treated with respect, and the orderlies treat them worse than dogs in this place. Something has gone very wrong, though. So we take the mushrooms to speak with the dead in the spirit world. But the spirits here are angry, he says. those who died continue to suffer. So a spirit killed Upshaw and is taking revenge for mistreatment.
Is that your read?
That's my read.
Okay, so I think it's worth diving a little bit into what the episode is trying to tell us is happening here, because I think it is trying to do something. Whether it's successful is another question entirely. So, first of all, super racist scene. Just put that out there.
Well, he's Asian, so he has to have a deep cultural connection to spirit beings and, fungus, apparently.
I love the line, "You're not in your country now." It's like, yeah, it's true. But
I was waiting for Mark Snow's pan flute to come out.
Exactly. And the mushroom farm, there should have been pan flutes. Bongo drums. The next basic problem I have in this is there's so much sidestepping about what the mushrooms actually do. Like, even the characters ask him 3 times. And he doesn't say. He immediately just guilts them and like, people just send your old people here to die. Shouldn't you feel badly about that?
Yep.
But, and why does giving old people mushrooms that let you speak to the dead help the old people?
We can get into it, sir.
You defend the episode.
No.
I know it's your favorite.
No. Jesus. That's one of my many questions, sir. Mm-hmm. It's just not. The narrative is not reliable. You have no idea what these things do, why it's helping their Alzheimer's, but then I won't go into it right now. But yeah, that's part of my final thoughts as to just what the fuck is happening in this episode. So
yeah. I mean, what they're trying to say is that the pills help them. Somehow it alleviates the symptoms of their Alzheimer's, but it also does this by letting them talk to the dead people. So my question then would be, does this mean that they are telling the ghosts to do things, that they're able to commune with these spirits to let them do things? Or does it give them the ability to turn into ghosts? You don't know. Yeah, okay.
That's the $1 million
This is not a visual
question.
medium, people, but Mike is waving his hands in the air.
This is
giving that expression, which means, yep, exactly.
Exactly. Shrugging my shoulders. No one fucking knows. That's the answer. That's the answer, Andrew.
Okay. Well, I just laying it bare so that we're all on the same page of...
We're all preparing for final thoughts, so don't worry. Don't
you get ready, people. You'll understand less than we do when we get to our final thoughts.
So Gung leads Mulder to a door. Inside are bottles and a mortar and pestle.
Well, wait. That door unlocked. Little look on Gung's face like, oh, this door should be locked.
It should be locked.
Gung is terrible.
He grabs a jar that is almost empty and says someone has taken them all.
Yeah, sure.
Mulder is now
he handed them all out like candy is what he did.
Pretty much. He lost count.
That's right.
Mulder is finally on board. The meds here, or the mushrooms, are responsible for what's happening. As my wife points out, Scully has a terrible one-liner here. She was watching it with me today.
Oh, nice.
Mushrooms taste good on hamburgers, but they don't raise the dead. Thank you, Scully. That was supposed to be funnier than it actually was, I'm sure.
Why not pizza? Why not mushrooms are great on pizza? Hamburgers?
I don't typically put mushrooms on hamburgers, to be honest.
Maybe with mozzarella, but...
Yeah, if it's a Swiss, that's fine. But
but
I don't typically go for that.
No, they taste good on pizza, Scully. Get your facts straight.
You know what's not a good combination on pizza, now that we're on the subject? I know a disturbing amount of people that order sausage and mushroom only. And can I just say that is the blandest pizza I've ever tasted. But a lot of people love it. Like, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just bland.
Well, lovely listeners, welcome to the Pizza Podcast, where we talk about all things pizza.
Hey, we're talking ingredients. It's very on point, sir.
I will just say that depending on the type of sausage, if it's a nice spicy sausage, chorizo maybe?
Typically, it's not.
No.
Typically, it's just
it's
sausage.
Hot dogs,
it's just meat. Yeah. Doesn't strike me as a very fun pizza. So,
well, it's got to have a little vegetable on it. Come on.
It does. It does have to have something. So,
yeah.
Okay. Mulder says that shamans use mushrooms to gain entrance to the spirit world, Something has been unleashed here, and it has to do with those pills. Upstairs, Stan takes another pill as his daughter tries to see what it is. Dorothy has yet another fit and tells the daughter to run. Okay, let me just stop myself right here. A lot of shit is about to happen.
Yes.
And it's like, what the fuck is happening in this episode? So this is the beginning of the what the fuck is happening segment.
Well, but also, remember, we've had a long stretch without any action.
That's true. So they jam-packed it into the last 5 minutes.
They got to do it else. Like, literally half of the audience has already tuned into the Dukes of Hazzard because this is boring.
This episode is not keeping people.
That's
Leo
right.
calls to Dorothy for help. His body is thrown to the ground as apparitions drag him into darkness.
But I thought that was Charters. I thought Leo called out, but it was in fact Charters that got dragged away because, I mean, I'd have to look at it again.
She's in the next shot. Maybe I missed that. Maybe I misread that. But she is in the next shot. She's in the washroom calling for help. But I didn't think...
Why attack Leo? Everybody loves Leo. He's such a great artist. But Charters apparently is just, everybody hates Charters.
Leave him alone, Leo. Leo groans, body thuds. Yeah, she's talking about a man, so it's Leo.
Okay, well, even the transcript seems to think it's Leo. I don't think that makes any sense because, like, what the fuck has Leo ever done to anybody?
I don't know. It's just one more thing.
One more thing. Okay. Pray continue.
Okay, so Michelle calls for help from the washroom. Mulder arrives to see her fly across the room. Pipes begin bursting and water is spraying everywhere, filling the room. The door locks. Mulder tries to save Michelle and calls to Scully to turn off the water main. She runs to find Gung. Mulder tends to Michelle as best he can as the room slowly fills with water. Gung's trying to turn off the water. Again, a lot of stuff happening. On top of it all, Stan begins gasping for air. Scully is now up with Grego, asking for more atropine. And he rushes off to help Stan because, he's gagging and that's the way to fix him, apparently.
Well, he also is not a door guy. You can't open
He's not a door guy. He's not helping with Mulder's situation at all. So he's like, let me go administer some meds.
Well, my favorite in this little exchange is Scully rushing back from not being able to turn off the water and hearing help from Stan's daughter.
Yeah.
And it's like she pokes her head in. It's like, my partner's drowning, but what's going on here?
She does that thing. She diagnoses real quick.
She does.
And gets someone else to do the work.
Yeah. Your father's clearly choking. Good luck.
Man.
I will get help.
Yep. After Grego injects Stan, things seem to calm down. Scully continues to fumble with the door, and suddenly it bursts open, releasing the room full of water along with Mulder and Michelle. We see a quick scene of the apparitions fading away, and Dorothy exclaims, "They're gone." It's here, Andrew, where we get a Scully monologue to close out the episode. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health has taken over the facility. They're detecting trace amounts of ibotenic acid in more than half of the residents. Grego has since been replaced, and the Deprenil has been suspended for all residents. As the monologue continues, we see the residents back to being elderly and feeble. Leo is now drawing a crude sailboat instead of sweeping murals on the wall, implying his mental state is now back to a degenerative state. Dorothy is staring off into space, Stan along with her, as his daughter sits with him. He says nothing as she gets up to leave. Credits.
Single tear.
Oh, boy. So, Andrew, let's just dive right into final thoughts. We don't need to talk about this for another 15 minutes, but...
Well, speaking of diving in, I just wanted to say I will give him credit for the water effect.
Yeah.
It was probably not easy to orchestrate that, and it comes across as cool, even if the setup is utter trash. I have a hard time believing, that's got to be a lot of water that can fit into that bathroom. And I have a hard time believing that if you fill that room almost full, a interior door is going to withstand it. So
yeah,
And the whole setup is that the spirit that Stan is either inhabiting or directing is doing a bunch of things all at once. It is keeping the door from being opened. It is keeping the water mains from being turned. It's that one thing of just, I am going to make it impossible for you to do anything which will save the day until you find this other mysterious way to solve the problem. And apparently that problem is to give a random injection of atropine.
It affects the entire building.
Yeah, like they're all in Stan and they give it to Stan and they all go away. Like, I don't understand where this came from for Scully, where she just thinks, hey, Dr. Grego, do you, what are the odds you got any atropine in that bag?
Right.
It's like, oh, well, as it happens, I do have atropine. Oh, look good. Did you know that's used to reduce saliva and fluid in the respiratory tract during surgery and used to treat mushroom poisoning? Uh-huh.
Two very specific things.
Yeah. So she happens to guess that this is a solution and he happens to have it and they give it to him and everything is solved.
And it works like an exorcism for this building, which makes no sense.
Zero sense.
No sense.
Zero sense.
Like Stan is not the hub of the spirits going mad.
Well, he's not the only one taking the pills, apparently.
Exactly. So it's like, all right, so one person gets this injection and the entire place, the paranormal aspect to this episode just breaks down.
Yeah. It's such a Deus Ex Machina. Yeah, not great.
Not great.
Well, for final thoughts, this is not my favorite episode, not by a long shot.
What? I thought we were just having fun.
Listeners, when Mike and I talked about setting up season 2 and who was going to host which episode,
this was a coin toss.
I made it quite clear. I was quite happy to have you do this one.
Yeah.
There are others that I jumped in front of the bus for so that I wouldn't have to do this one because it's not good.
I was happy to do it, Andrew.
You are such a generous person. My problem with this episode is that the agents are tourists here. They don't actually do anything other than randomly fix the problem.
I'm not begrudging your point, but I would say that is the least offensive thing about this episode.
Fair. Between the casual racism and these other elements of just throwing weird, like the script just changes gears about what the mushrooms do and what the ghosts are and how they work. Like, I think X-Files episodes work best when you come to the same realizations as the characters do with the same information they have. You get to feel smart. You get to feel like, oh, I see how they got here. But there's none of that in this episode.
None.
It seems to be just this random guest that happens to save the day and interior door holding up a whole room full of water. No,
sorry.
I was going to say it might be interesting to have a discussion about what the drug allows its users to do and why the spirits do what they did. But at the end of the day, I don't think I care enough.
Thank you. Oh my God. That's almost exactly how I end my fucking notes.
I'd say that I would say that there is a good episode hiding somewhere in this one.
No.
But I think this could be the exception day.
Ooh.
Isn't that a good way to wrap it up, eh?
Well, there you go.
All right. Mike, what are your final thoughts?
It's just a bad episode. And again, I'm going to hit the note where I think the biggest sin for me is the total abandonment of Mulder's character.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't buy it. He would not act this way. He would not be dismissive of someone in such dire circumstances. Something terrible has happened to this woman. He would be very protective and want to get to the bottom of it, despite the fact that it's not exactly paranormal in his eyes.
Yeah.
So that right there is unforgivable for me. He's not acting like the character we've come to love for a season and a half at this point.
Fair.
Scully doesn't get to do an autopsy. I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, terrible.
As we discussed, a little bit. So I get what Paul was trying to do with the idea with the convalescent homes and saying that, we treat our elderly in poor manners. A lot of times we hide them away rather than care for them ourselves. I can get behind that storyline, but this is just not put together well. It's so inconsistent and confusing as to what's actually happening. Furthermore, and I wanted to touch on this because either I'm understanding it poorly or the episode, again, did a terrible job at telling us what's going on. Michelle is convinced that Hal is the one who raped her spiritually.
Yes. Yeah.
But by the end of the episode, we are to believe the problems with Excelsis Dei are angry spirits of people who are already dead and haunting this place, taking revenge on the orderlies. But if Hal isn't dead when she's raped,
yeah, who did it?
Who did it?
Yeah.
And just, I'm sorry, but if I'm supposed to feel bad for the way the elderly are treated here, if they go around raping people as retaliation, I really don't care at that point.
Yeah. And it's
so, again, yeah, bad that they're treated poorly for sure. Not excusable to, to go about this.
Yeah, exactly.
If this is your retaliation. And there's nothing to indicate that she is a bad person. She seems to be the only one who wants to do her job. She's upset, and in the beginning of the episode, she's like, you guys leave everything for me. I'd be bitter too. But that doesn't make her one of the bad orderlies.
Yeah, she's not force feeding anybody or forcing them to go to dinner or packing their clothes messily.
We have no evidence of her being a shitty person necessarily.
Exactly, and I think to your point.
Yeah, go ahead.
To your point, the inciting incident of the episode where essentially she rebuffs Hal's advances and uses the straps, which is a weird touch, to sort of show her dominance. And she's then turned into a victim. She is, what they're trying to say is that the spirit or Hal through spirits, or if it's Hal and he's telling a spirit what to do, who knows what, but he is exerting his power over her in vengeance, in revenge to say, you can't do this to me. I will refuse to be demasculated this way. Thus, I'm going to have my way with you in this manner. And the drug is somehow the facilitator of that.
Yeah.
It's completely unjustified. It in no way it should not endear us to the plight of the old folks in this home if they're directing it. Exactly. And they are implied as being culpable because Stan, in a scene that happens quite soon, turns to Hal and says, "What did you tell them?"
Exactly. Yeah.
So he is. It's implied that he is complicit. So
and you're going to ruin it for us if you're not careful. It's like, okay, so what the fuck are you doing, and why should I care that the orderlies are mean to you at this point?
Well, everybody seems to deserve it in this place. So
right,
I get
including the old
are
people.
Angry.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this episode, because if Paul's Mr. Brown, if his goal was to make us think twice about hiding our people away in some of these very terrible homes, which do exist,
surely,
maybe not to this level, but they do exist. There are terrible convalescent homes. I've heard horror stories, but if his goal is to make us aware and start treating them better and push for better services in these places, don't make your elderly rapist assholes. Because again, whether Hal did it or not, he either did it or he directed the ghost to do it.
That's right.
So why do I give a fuck at the end of the day? What happens to them?
And that is one of the major flaws of the episode, is they should have made the elderly non-ghost residents in this place. They should have made them as much victims,
very much so,
as the orderlies are. And I think they were trying to do that with Dorothy.
Dorothy's the only one who...
She's the only one we care about because she can see the bad ghosties. But it's a problem, this whole episode.
So to end my notes, I basically am saying I can't make heads or tails of this episode, and normally I would care, but I don't, because it's so confusing, and the motives of these elderly people and the ghosts are just egregious to the point where I don't want to understand it. So it's like, I don't care anymore.
The only credit I will give the episode is that the writer doesn't try and set up a sequel. We don't have Dr. Grego with the jar of pills
Stan's just staring off into nothing, and then the camera comes around, and then he looks right into the lens.
Yeah, and a little ghost is over his shoulder or something.
He's awoken.
Yeah. I see Grego in the laboratory with the pill going, I'm going to just figure this thing out if it kills me. And the little ghosts are, swimming in the background. They don't do that, thankfully.
Well, we have, I think, one comment, and I'm just going to pretend that I did not just post this today.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
No, that was totally my fault. So I apologize, listeners, for not giving you enough time to comment. But Liza M, 1 hour ago,
got it under the deadline. Good stuff,
while
Liza.
this episode is not as bad as 3, it's way more depressing and cringy on levels that don't even lend themselves to amusing snark. True. I just think it's just not a good episode.
Totally forgettable.
All right, Andrew, let's not dwell on this one. Would you like to say goodbye to the dear listeners?
Dear listeners, thank you for listening to our gutting of Excelsis Dei. We won't extend or expand or exhume further into this excellently bad episode.
Good day, sir. Good day, listeners.
Good day.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilespod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming.